Yeah, well, conservatives are pretty good at implementing. That's their strength, even on the temperamental side. But on the vision front, they're not that good. And that's partly what even makes them conservative, because if you're a conservative, you don't need a vision in some sense, because what you tend to do is walk the tried and true path. And in some sense, that's a replacement for a vision, or it's a traditional vision. And the disadvantage you have, I would say, on that front is that when people push you in relationship to your traditional vision, you may not be able to articulate it well. So someone might object to someone who's conservative. It's like, well, defend marriage. It's like, well, people think, well, I thought we already agreed on that. I don't know how to defend that. It's an institution that's been around for all intents and purposes forever. It's part of the general consensus of value. Even to articulate it to that degree is rare. And so conservatives are often taken aback, especially when those questions are also accompanied by a moral accusation. Like, well, you know, it's nothing but a patriarchal institution. And it's also easy to make conservatives feel guilty because they're conscientious. And so if you tell a conservative, you're not doing your duty, they think, oh, well, I'm not. I'm trying to do my duty.
But is that a losing strategy? Is that why the left's march through the institutions has been so successful? Because conservatives haven't had that boldness and belief in their value system?
Well, I think it's also because the challenge is actually quite realistically corrosive. So we could start with the observation that all human social institutions, whether they're micro, marriage say, or macro, political or economic, are corrupted by the corruption of power. So when someone drives the assault against an institution forward on the basis of the claim that it's nothing but power, it's difficult to differentiate that because you're guilt-prone as a conservative, you'll think, well, yeah, these institutions are corrupted by power to some degree. Well, then that's the rub. It's like, well, yeah, to some degree. To say that our institutions are corrupted by the temptation of power is a very different claim than that those institutions are founded on nothing but the will to power. And that's the fundamental, radical, what would you say, leftist claim. And that's not an easy claim to defend against, because I might say, like, I could confront you with this. I could say, well, what's the opposite of the will to power? And you think, well, I don't know. So, well, that's a problem, and it is a problem. It's a very difficult technical problem. I think, by the way, just for the sake of continuing the argument, that it's the spirit of voluntary play that's the antithesis of the spirit of power. And I think that functional human relationships that are self-sustaining and productive and generous, reciprocal, are when they're optimized based on the spirit of play. And that's the opposite of the spirit of tyranny as well. But it took me like 30 years to be able to figure out how to articulate that. And so if you're pushed back into a corner with your rather inarticulate but deeply embodied conservative beliefs, it's not evident at all that you have either the ability or the temperament to transform that traditional belief into a compelling, forward-looking vision. So that's very hard on conservatives, and I have been struck by the degree to which the vision on the centrist front is neither compelling nor coherent. It's not, especially in the face of this tremendously pointed accusatory assault. It's all about power. And the only reason you don't see that is because of your privilege. It's like, well, you have privilege. I mean, you're in a good position. Do you not have privilege? Well, what do you mean privilege exactly? Did you earn it? Well, can you even earn privilege? Is there such a thing as earning it? Well, these are all questions that have been thrown up by people who are subsidized to do nothing but cause trouble as a consequence of their envy. It's also an effective call to a very base motivation. So if you put forward the proposition that it's all about power, then, and that those who have more power have it because they have essentially stolen it, well, then all sorts of things are now open up for you. It's like, well, anyone who has more than you of anything is a thief. That's quite the proposition. It's very convenient for you. you're justified in stealing it back. In fact, you might be morally obligated to do so. You have a convenient place to put the problem of evil, and it's certainly not within you. It allows you to act on your envy. And boy, you want to be careful of adopting a belief system that allows you to act on your envy, because envy is a very, very, very corrosive motivational force. You know, and if no one can have anything more than anyone else, no one can have anything at all, because everything is never going to be absolutely equitably distributed.